Honourable members, we've all been here before, and almost everybody on this particular call sat in the National Assembly as we contemplated how to hold a sitting president to account. The sitting president, who at the time was facing multiple serious allegations of abuse of power and abuse of public funds, and who looked for all the world to be guilty of those allegations. A sitting president who knew he could call on the majority of you to abandon your sworn oaths in order to shield him from the law and from those of us who still respected our oaths of office. A sitting president who knew that Parliament's presiding officers would remember who deployed them here and what that deployment then demanded of them. A sitting president who viewed this House, its members, and its oversight duties with complete contempt. Almost all of you were members of this House when that circus played out. And the majority of you were only too happy to play along, deploying your votes again and again in service of Jacob Zuma, his homestead, and his handlers. Former speakers of this House had no qualms about abandoning their constitutional duty and serving only the interests of their compromised president. It was all so tacky and so transparent. Everybody knew what was going on, the public, the press, the international community. Everyone knew that a crooked president was using you all for his own protection, like a two-bit mob boss, and you were all only too happy to let him do it. Of course, then came the so-called New Dawn, and along with that, the Turmamina promenade walks and the gushing hagiographies in the media. We got a string of solemn promises vowing never again. In the wake of the Zondo report, there was apparently much soul-searching and earnest contemplation of all that went wrong in this House and how it was allowed to reach that point. And yet, here we are again. A sitting president who looks for all money to be guilty of a string of offences, but who knows he can count on his caucus and presiding officers to shut down questions, to bat away accountability, and to deny any possibility of oversight through an ad hoc committee. Do you not see this? Can you not see history repeating itself before your eyes? The new Speaker of the House is no different to the old speakers. She's failing Parliament in the exact same way that her predecessors failed Parliament. There's simply no truth to her assertion or the assertions of Honourable Lasoma that an ad hoc committee of Parliament is superfluous, since some of its tasks are within the purview of other entities such as law enforcement. These two processes are not mutually exclusive. In 2016, the DA called for the establishment of an ad hoc committee into state capture, only for it to be shot down by the ANC for the exact same spurious reasons that it was supposedly up to law enforcement and Chapter 9 institutions to investigate rather than Parliament, the same arguments we've just heard. This was, of course, all debunked as complete nonsense. Even President Ramaphosa himself conceded in his Zondo testimony that, and I quote, "When you look at it with hindsight, I would say the two would not be mutually exclusive. And if anything, both checks could easily have been followed," unquote. This was then echoed by Justice Zondo when he wrote in his report that, and I quote, "Leaving it exclusively to other agencies to investigate and, if necessary, to take action regarding these allegations was not, in the Commission's view, consistent with Parliament's constitutional responsibilities," unquote. It's not one or the other. The President must cooperate with both law enforcement and Parliament. Neither is there any legitimacy to the argument that we've just heard that the Section 89 inquiry into the President will perform the same function as an ad hoc committee. That impeachment process only looks at the President's role in the Phala Phala story, but the rot has spread much further. Aside from the dirty dollars in the couch, we need answers from, amongst others, the State Security Agency, the Finance Portfolio Committee, the Presidential Protection Unit, the Reserve Bank, and the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. None of those answers will come from a Section 89 inquiry. The only body with the power to summon all these people and institutions to testify is an ad hoc committee of this Parliament. But rather than take my word for it, I will leave you with one last thought from President Ramaphosa's testimony before the Zondo Commission, where he fully accepted the following proposition, and I quote, "Where there is information in the public domain, which, if true, would implicate a president in conduct which is allegedly unconstitutional, illegal, or improper, the National Assembly is obliged to do what it can Firstly, to establish whether there's any merit in the allegations, and secondly, if it finds that there is, to take appropriate action. Unquote. Those aren't my words. That's the position of the president himself. Now, given all of these things, the scathing rebuke by Justice Zondo, the solemn promises by members of and presiding officers of the House to do better, and the unambiguous testimony of the president himself, how can anybody still justify blocking the establishment of an ad hoc committee into Phala Phala? For the sake of our country, for the integrity of our House, and for the people of South Africa, let's for once do the right thing. Thank you very much, Chairperson.